In this house, we love horror, and our guest today has quickly established himself as a filmmaker to watch in that space with his feature debut, Skinamarink. Kyle Edward Ball, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you about this movie, which I should mention is available to stream on Shudder right now, and you should all go watch it if you haven't already. But I do want to talk about the limited theatrical release that you had, which really have elevated the movie's profile. You guys made over $1 million on a production budget of $15K in one weekend. I think it's safe to say that a lot of the horror diehards were a big part of that, who knew they just couldn't miss the chance to see it with an audience. How did it feel having that community come out and signal boost the hell out of this movie?
It was insane. So originally when we did the contract with Shudder, before it was announced, before anything, there was talk of maybe one screening in New York and LA, maybe one in Edmonton. And then after it picked up a little bit of steam, that shifted to, maybe we'll do a Paranormal Activity one, so 12 theaters at a time. That was insane, and I didn't honestly know how well it would do. But with that being said, we made it for 15,000, so if we did 500,000, that would be considered a financial success. And then when we hit theaters, and for one of the days, it wasn't for the full weekend, but for one of the days, we actually cracked the top 10 of that day. It was amazing. It felt like it was just another thing in this whole experience where it felt like every dream as a filmmaker that you have has happened to me in the past 2 months.
But now that the movie is out on Shudder, I do want to know, do you have any suggestions for ideal situation in which to watch it?
So I really think it comes down to, good horror works on any medium, any screen size, as long as you follow rules of it's dark, you have your undivided attention. It has to be late, it has to be dark, and it has to be loud is the most important thing. You have to crank the volume and not ride it for there's a jump scare, I'm going to turn the volume down. You just have to let it happen.
Now, we are IGN. Obviously, we love games around these parts. Were you a gamer growing up? And what influence, if any, did video games have on how you tell a story?
So, oddly enough, I'm not really a gamer. I did play games like Super Nintendo growing up, but there's some weird exceptions to the rule where I would really get into a particular video game. And one of them, I guess if we're tying it back to horror, was I believe it was Resident Evil 4, the one with Leon. And then in a weird way, Silent Hill 2, which I've never played, had a strange influence on this movie. I remember years ago, my friend Shevlin said he was describing the experience he had of playing Silent Hill 2. And the way he described it was, he's like, Kyle, you don't understand. There'll be parts of the game where you're playing for hours and nothing happens. And it gets unnerving after a point where it's just nothing is happening. And it starts to feel like you're in the environment. That idea always stuck with me of just what if there was just parts of it where just nothing happened, right? When I was writing it and editing it, I thought I kind of toyed with that idea. Just literally nothing was happening throughout the movie. And there are a handful of shots in it where it's just nothing. There's one shot in particular towards the end, I won't spoil it, where it's just dead. Right. So, yeah, that's a weird way that Silent Hill 2, of all things, kind of influenced the philosophy behind this.
Well, hey, if the internet loves one thing, it's cats. And if it loves two things, it's cats and turning horror movies into memes. And Kyle, I've seen you very active on Twitter lately. Maybe you've seen some of these, but I would like to share with you some of my favorite Skinamarink things from around the internet, if you'd let me.
Awesome.
I want to start with Harry Nordlinger, who has a Skinamarink, a collection of his favorite shots from Skinamarink. We can get that up on the screen there.
So those are Looney Tunes. Yeah. I actually saw a few of these when I was editing, and I think even particularly the bottom bottom left and thought, oh, it's like I was doing this by accident.
Well, let's move on to now when kinder trauma has taken notice, you know you've made it in the horror world. Let's take a look at Skinamarink Shrinky Dinks.
This was insane. Someone spent time on this. This is incredible.
From Troop Respecter, this has been a point of contention on the internet. My review of Skinnamarink, this is supposed to be a movie that emulates being a 90s kid having a sleepover, but there's several shots with the orange brick separator on the ground that wasn't introduced until 2011. Immersion ruined. Terrible film. Do you have a comment on?
So I don't know, because I remember someone in good fun, and by the way, all these historical inaccuracies, keep them coming, because I completely understand that it's all in good fun. It's just because they're rewatching the movie and like getting immersed in it. It doesn't hurt my feelings or anything. But I don't know if this was the person that DM'd me, because originally someone had DM'd me about the orange brick separator, and then it could be different Lego people though who noticed it, and I just figured, well, no one's gonna notice. It's just Lego.
This next one is from Jen the Crow. A little Nine Inch Nails love down here. Me and my friend going to see Skinamarink for the second time. How are you tonight? You having a good time? Ready to party? Have fun? Well, that was the Last Guys. Wrong band. We're here to have a bad time. Synthesizer playing.
I love that, because there's lots of. The best horror movies should kind of feel like a punch to the gut, and what's more Nine Inch Nails than that?
I'd like to move on to some fan questions. There are obviously a lot of questions surrounding Skinamarink, surrounding your career, Kyle, so we have a few of those here. You suck, Henry. Sorry, Henry, whoever you are. Does this movie draw from any personal, scary childhood stories?
It really does a lot. Really, the more I think about it, it draws from so many billions of different things. Or even the fact that we shot it in the house I grew up in, and for a bit was afraid of the basement, or afraid of even just the hallway outside my bedroom.
MXA Ghost would like to know, the trailer for the film is simple and scary. Why did you decide to make it that way? Was it hard to compact the movie into a short trailer?
It actually was surprisingly easy. So I watched a bunch of 70s, 1960s trailers. I tried to steer away from 80s ones, because those ones are completely different and more snappy than 70s ones. So I just watched a bunch of those, and then I let that sit and say, okay, what are some things I might want to replicate? What are some things I don't? It wasn't that hard, because if you steep yourself in horror movies and old horror movies, and God, I love old horror movies, then a lot of it just kind of came second nature. And yeah.
Heisenberg Delu 1 would like to know, I believe the movie is partially about the way we misinterpret our childhood memories. Did you intentionally misspell the name of the popular children's song as a way of sticking to that theme?
So that theme is kind of in the movie itself. So the way through dreams and ideas and reiterations, like if you tell a nightmare you had to your older sister when you were a kid, it comes out different to how it feels. All that kind of stuff is in the movie. But the misspelling, it was intentional, but that's not the reasoning. I didn't want kids to go on YouTube and try to find the children's song and get directed to this movie.
And this is the final one from Watch Aya Khan. I just want to know when we can expect his next film. Do you have any ideas of when or what that would look like?
I'm planning now, maybe start writing it in a few months, and then pre-production. Hopefully we can start filming early 2024, and then release maybe later on in 2024, but we'll see. Hopefully my next movie will come out in 2024.
Well, that is incredibly exciting for all of us that are excited for your next movie. Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. Skinamarink is streaming on Shudder right now. Do not miss it.